one.
Okay, this is not going to be easy, folks. Our home is thrilled to have with us the megastar America has been in love with for decades. He's done it all, and he's done it all brilliantly. Movies, television, clubs, personal appearances. And now at last, the Broadway stage. At an age when most men have retired to their rockers, he's still rocking us. Please welcome the star of the film Funny Bones and the Broadway show Damn Yankees. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jerry Lewis. How are you, sir? Nice to see you.
Hiya, Mark. How are you?
You can applaud him. Yeah, come on. We've got an intimate crowd here.
Thank you.
Do I have to do the whole thing with you like this? I'm dead.
No, I just wanted to tell you, I've been working so hard, I took off some height.
Yes.
I'll fix it.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm thrilled that you're here. The way you ended up here was thrilling to me. I wrote you a note after opening night.
Yes.
And you actually called me, which I couldn't believe, and said, hey, you want me to do the show? I'll do the show. And I've been a nervous wreck ever since. So,
Well, why are you so nervous?
Was there somebody who was your idol at some point when you were growing up, and if you had a chance to meet him, you would have gone, oh, my God, I can't believe it?
Yeah, Fidel Castro. If I ever meet Fidel...
You'll be out of your mind.
I just want to shave that bastard just one time.
35 years I've been watching you, okay?
35 years?
Well, I'm 43, but figure I've been watching the first movie when I was about 8 years old, okay?
43, I got shorts older than you.
What's it like to be Jerry Lewis walking down the streets in New York City now versus 10 years ago?
Well, I'm in a groundswell now. I'm in a rebirth kind of a period. This dream that I never felt would be fulfilled is happening for me. And it's almost like the people in New York know how meaningful it is in my life. And it's as though they're rooting for me. It's an incredible kind of love affair going on with the audiences and the cab drivers in New York and the people that walk the streets of New York, people at the hotel, people in the shopping areas. I don't know what it is. I can only say that if I had to write what I feel is happening, I would write, New York had a meeting. They decided we should be especially nice to him. That's the only way I could put it. So, walking down the street now versus 10 years ago, there's the same celebrity that celebrity enjoys, but it's much more meaningful now. And it has adjusted my whole outlook and my attitude. My very persona has changed because of it. I'm much more tolerant. I can deal with the media much more comfortably. My battle with them, I've put on the back burner. I'll battle them again at another time.
Why?
Because they're important to me at this time in my life, and rather than they're using me as they did for 59 years, I'm using them. It's that simple.
It's interesting.
You don't think I'm here because I want to sit with you, do you?
You say the name Jerry Lewis, and it evokes an emotion.
Like a skin disease.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Do you consider yourself a controversial person?
Of course, I always have been.
Because?
Well, because I've taken on some sacred cows. I've challenged the government. I've made some very strong positions for myself that I believe you cannot deal in integrity and truth without getting in trouble. If you don't want to get in trouble, then do what the masses do. Lie. I just don't do that.
You tell the truth.
Yeah,
and that ruffles feathers.
Well, it ruffles feathers because people are not disturbed because you're telling the truth. They're disturbed because you're making them look at themselves. Because you're making them say to themselves, I don't do that. Why is he disrupting what I do? If he didn't do it, I wouldn't recognize I'm not doing it. It's very much like the multifaceted talent. If you're a screenwriter, a director, a producer, and a performer, the man who just directs films hates that you do that because he doesn't do it. Mm-hmm. Instead of his saying that's his choice to do, he has to wear a hat 8 hours a day. 4 hats is 32 hours. You can't even make that in 24. That's my choice. That's what has enabled me to create this body of work in 64 years. Yeah. That man wants me not to do that so that he's comfortable. Whereas, conversely, I applaud anyone that does more than one thing. I am delighted and I root for them because they're doing something that they think is productive and that can be wonderful for the world around them. I root for them.
So if I said, is Jerry Lewis an entertainer, a clown, a director, a humanitarian, you don't want to put yourself in a box like that.
I'm not pigeonholed. If I put two hoppers on the table, one was called Marc Summers and the other's called Jerry Lewis. Now both hoppers are filled with cards. And from either hopper you can take a card and it would read the following. Congenial, card. Generous, angry, hostile, warm, loving, eager, anxious, opportunist, devilish, liar, cheat, honest, moral, noble, kind, warm, giving, charitable, ugly, insensitive. All those cards are in Marc Summers' hopper, and they're all in mine. Then, if you pull the bottom card from each hopper, it says, the totality of what you've read is a human malady. It's called person. There isn't anyone that's watching us now that doesn't fit in that mold. The menu of the human condition has about 65 items, and they range from greedy to wonderful to loving to dishonest to deceptive to uncertain to anxious, hopeful, dreamer, wisher, wuss,
All those
balls.
cards apply to all of us.
Yeah, everybody. Everybody.
You're 69.
With the exception of a lady. Balls you don't use with.
You're 69, and I see you on stage. I've seen the show 5 times now, and you have more energy. And I know people half your age who are sitting in rockers or retired.
You want me to tell you what retire is?
What is retired?
It's a metaphor for atrophy.
You
And
give
I
up?
thi-
Are you giving up when you retire?
No, I don't think that they know they're giving up. I think that they have been made to understand that if they work very hard throughout the course of their lives, they're going to be able to go and do nothing. I don't see that as the fulfillment of a dream. If you tell me at the age of 15, you work hard, bust your buns, build character, have courage, dream of the ultimate day when you're going to say, I am a satisfied man in the human condition, and you're getting all of that from doing nothing, doesn't make any sense.
Not going to happen.
See, I want to go, I'd like to go with my daughter in the wings and my wife on the other side and go right in front of the audience. That would be my finish. It would be wonderful. But to die in a small hotel in a little town somewhere? No.
No.
It's not unlike what I've taught my sons all of their lives. If you're going to make a mistake, do me a favor. Don't embarrass me. Make it a bitch. If you're going to make a mistake, make a beaut. But if you tiptoe and your mistake is timid, I'm going to be embarrassed. I want you to move with some courage. Walk through the door and let everyone know you've made noise. Anybody can tiptoe through the door.
You talk about your sons. Let me ask you about your dad. You idolized him.
You got a week? Yeah.
You had him on a pedestal higher
Oh, yeah.
than high. He influenced your life tremendously.
Sure. I copied him.
I heard a story, though, where you played for the Queen of England.
Yeah.
Standing ovation.
She stood.
She stood, absolutely.
That's unlike anything that ever happened in the royal family. I did the royal command performance 3 times, and I know what the protocol is. The protocol is Her Majesty never moves. Her Majesty applauds, but she stays where she is. I mean, she's a very large Barney. That's what she is.
And you go backstage after
And I go
that.
backstage when I saw Her Majesty stand up. I did 2.5 hours by myself with a jazz band. And she stood up and applauded. And I know what the protocol is. And I went backstage and I said to my dad, it doesn't get better than that.
And he said,
He said, it does if you play Broadway.
okay, so now you're playing Broadway,
Yeah.
and you're doing it for him.
No, I'm doing it for me. He wanted it for me, as I want for my Danny. my dad wanted it from me.
How did the way your dad brought you up affect the way you raised your sons? And how has that changed now that you have Danny?
Nothing's changed. I've mimicked my dad. I mimicked my dad's character, and I mimicked his talent. He was all those things in the hopper. He was the kindest, dearest, sweetest man you ever met in your life. Cross him, and he's Attila the Hun. But is he any different than you are? Or any man you know? So I raised my children remembering what my dad did with me, and I was proud of what my dad did. And I felt that he accomplished some good stuff. He made me everything I am, good, bad, and otherwise.
He made mistakes?
Yes.
You make mistakes?
You bet. Oh, God, yes.
How
And I make buttes.
What's the biggest mistake you ever made?
Coming here today.
Besides that. If you could pick out one thing that you said, I really screwed up, I shouldn't have done that.
When I turned down Some Like It Hot. That was the biggest
Jack
mistake.
Lemmon role?
Yeah, and I'm talking strictly about professional now.
Right.
I've made some glaring mistakes as a man that if I went back to try to redo it, I probably would have screwed up again anyhow. But that was a glaring professional mistake.
Talking about films, Dumb and Dumber, Billy Madison, certainly Steve Martin, you've influenced all these people. And they're all doing Jerry Lewis movies. But I don't see a lot of people, and correct me if I'm wrong, running to do a Jerry Lewis movie with Jerry. Is that true or untrue? And how do you feel about these guys doing your act?
Oh, I think they're wonderful. I think Jim Carrey's the best visual comic to come along in God knows how long. I think that what they're doing is, you look in your studio in about 6 months, you're going to see the crew is wearing bell-bottom trousers again, because that's going to come around. And we just happen to live that way. Everything circles and circles. All of a sudden you see guys coming in dressed with suits and ties again. That's a cycle. What's happening here is we're getting back to the 1920s or the 1950s. Every 25 or 30 years, the picture industry finds out what it really should be doing. See, for a long time, we've been going to the cinema and we've been listening to movies. Well, I don't believe in listening to movies. I believe in watching a movie and hearing the action. Now you have kids like Jim Carrey that are doing what the movie industry was built on. It was built on the Keystone Cops and Chaplin. That started it. It wasn't Douglas Fairbanks Jr. and it wasn't Mary Pickford. It was Chaplin and the Keystone Cops. You go to see a movie that creates a wonderful brand in your brain that takes you out of the humdrum of life, and that's what it's supposed to be. We need more Jim Carreys, and we need more visual fun. And there's nothing wrong with the beauty of Silence of the Lambs. There's nothing wrong with Sleepless in Seattle. We're talking about magnificent films. But you cannot... Here's the thing that troubles me more than anything is, the Academy of Arts and Sciences doesn't even have a category for comedy.
Frightening.
The very reason that they've had their 68th Academy Award was Charlie Chaplin. And we had to fight for 4 years to get him honorable mention. So the Academy are snobs, and they always have been. They're snobs. They don't understand the working man. They haven't the faintest idea about who the ticket buyer is. They're just a bunch of people that sit in Chasen's, thank God it's closed, and they sit around and they really think that life is a puff of smoke and a silk gown, and my heavens, did you see Maud Wednesday? I mean, they are really snobs. I'm not saying this because they don't recognize me. I say it because they don't recognize my craft. I don't need their Academy Award. I've never done anything that warranted it. But there are some people that have been here that should have been recognized for their craft. Do you know that they announce in the technical awards, the Academy Award goes to Arnold Weitman, who discovered a non-focusing lamp for the men's room in the theaters of America. Now they're going to give him a statuette. The man who created the incandescent light so that the solar system itself doesn't encumber the emulsion of 5422 stock. He gets a statuette. But comedy, not even a category. It's not even, well, they'll wise up.
I noticed a little Professor Kelp coming out in your voice there a second ago. If somebody said, Nutty Professor is the best thing Jerry Lewis ever did, how would you respond?
They're right.
You agree?
Yeah, it's the best work I've ever done.
Who's id? Who is id?
Well, that was me in school. They called me idiot, and then they shortened it to id. You know, I think they knew I was being offended, so they shortened it.
And I was reading about you and Dean. You're the same height. I never knew this, but you actually made your heels shorter so you would look like you were smaller than Dean. You
And
cut
raised
your hair,
his.
And raised his and
Yeah.
cut your hair because you didn't want to look handsome at all. You really had this monkey and...
Oh, I had no problem about being afraid of being handsome. When I was 18 and Dean and I were beginning, there was no worry about my being handsome. I was the closest thing to a chimp you ever saw in your life. But I knew enough to crouch because what I had written was a monkey and a handsome man. That was the premise. And it needed that kind of focus. And I always crouched. And I had Dean put that size lift on his tux boots and took that much off mine. So everyone referred to the little guy. And then they would see Dean and I socially in a restaurant, and we'd stand up to leave, and they're watching two 6-foot men. But in the performance at the Copa, I always looked 5'8".
You did, absolutely. A couple of questions. Tell me about Sam and what she means to you and how she's changed your life.
Well, she's what a woman is supposed to be for a man. She's my spine. My daughter is the air in my lungs, and Sam is my spine. Now, to get into that, could get a little maudlin, but she's a support system. Even though you've seen the show as many times as you have, and you see that kind of response from an audience, which any man in his right mind would say that's enough in your life, it doesn't compare to when she says, "I'm so proud of you."
You always get choked up. You always get emotional.
No, I do not.
When you think of your wife. Yes, you do. But you're not afraid to show that. And that's what I think is so wonderful. You know, I'm always walking around here doing you. And
The world isn't ready for another one.
that's
Mark.
right. I'm always doing a lady. So where's Bonnie? Where's Bonnie? Come here, Bonnie. Bonnie is the other half of the show. Say hi to Jerry.
Hi,
Why don't you sit
Bonnie.
next to her?
I'm going to sit right
Now-
next to you.
How are you?
Good.
Now, I have a problem getting Bonnie to do a lady. So if you could just teach her how to do this correctly. It's the emphasis, right, on the... Let me hear you do it. Let me hear the proper way.
Well, yeah, it has to. You see, most people say lady.
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 Okay.
And then take it up. Lady.
Lady.
You haven't got a chance. No.
Really? No way?
You would lose on Star Search.
Oh, man.
Let me hear just
Don't
one
worry
good
about
old
it.
lady. Come on.
Lady.
There we go. That's what we needed here. Jerry, it's been a big thrill. Thank you
boy.
for
Are
taking
you
some
leaving
time.
me now?
I think that's...
You made me drive out here for this?
That's right, yeah. Actually, I could go on forever, but they're telling me I've gone way too long. And,
Okay.
But anyway, thanks so much for being
I'm
here.
glad I came,
was a
and
big
I
thrill.
hope when you see the show you enjoy it. Again,
Again,
a
Wednesday
little
night.
group of you.
Yeah, that's it. I'll be there. Coming back with more of Our Home right after this.
And then come to camera.
Stand by. You rolling? Quiet, everybody.
Keep
5,
that pig and shit low.
4, 3, 2.
We're coming back with more of Jerry Lewis right after we do this. Don't go away.
Okay, and then let's give a little more serious one also.
Okay.
Stand by in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Stay where you are. We're coming back with more of Jerry Lewis right after this.
Good. And don't do.
Okay, let's get a pick up of the bug cut. To camera
Was
I'm
it?
going to go home. I'm going home. Here we go. Stand by. We're grabbing it. got it.